You are listening to the Home Service Business Success Show. We have been accelerating the path of success for home service companies since 2011.
So now, instead of creating a moment of friction, you've created a moment of freedom.
All we're doing every day, ladies and gentlemen, is doing the best we can in the human experience in the service business world. And your best is all you've got.
Everybody has a great plan and dispatch until the day starts. I'm telling you with the utmost confidence that if you'll do this, life will get easy.
Way better. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Home Service Business Success. I'm your host, Kenny Chapman, along with my ride or die co-host, Chris Crew. Good to see you, my man.
Good to be here, Kenny. Good to be here. As always, share energy. We just had conversations before we got started. Sometimes I wish we had a camera rolling live on everything we do. So much magical, fun stuff.
Some of you would never miss an episode because of some of the things that happened pre-recording today, and some of you would never listen again. I'll just leave it at that. So
Facts. That's facts right there.
That's speaking some truth. So hey, today we're here with you, season 2. We're doing a mailbag episode today, Chris, where we asked last season, the end of season 1, hey, this show is not about us. It's not about blue collar as the success group. It's about blue collar as the trades. And we said, hey, what do you want to know? What do you want to hear? If you could get inside, be careful. If you could get inside the mind of Kenny Chapman and Chris Crew, what would you pull out of there? And we got a bunch of questions, a great response. So this is probably not the last of it's definitely not the last of these episodes we're going to do this season. So Chris, today we're going to jump in and we're going to run through a few of these, and I've got them pulled up here in front of me, and we're just going to kind of go like old school radio, and let's answer some of our followers' questions today and give them a little snapshot of what we're thinking, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get going, man, I really wish I had one of those great introductions like the great Les Brown when he tells the story when he wanted to be a DJ and he was the janitor. And he was over there talking about rock in the studio and drinking. Some will remember that conversation. Kenny, I know all your travelings and speakings that you did with Les. He had one of the most smoothest introductions to himself in that radio episode where he introed himself. I wish I had something smooth like that, but I don't. So let's just roll up our sleeves and go to work on this thing.
He rolled with that. That's a fact. He definitely one of a kind. That's for sure. So hey, let's jump in. We're going to start with Haley's question. Haley sent in a question, which is, what challenges are keeping you up at night, driving revenue and EBITDA growth in a time that consumers are still financially struggling and leaning toward repair versus replacement, and lead cost is up, Chris? So when we think about, a lot of people on the line are going, hey, lead cost is up. People want to repair rather than replace. It's not the Wild West, where do I sign of the post-COVID era. What advice do you have in thoughts around that today for Haley and everyone else having the same? Thank you, by the way, Haley, so much for the question and being a fan of the show.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get you a shirt because of that, so you can rock a blue collar success group shirt. You, Haley, I think you probably can tell those folks up there in that Minnesota area. We know what company you're from. You just tell them that Chris and Kenny said hello, by the way.
That's right. Good.
So we're really excited to be able to take this question. And I think, Kenny, that this merits a whole nother conversation in itself, which is what keeps you up at night. And for me, what kept me up at night wasn't lead count, wasn't driving sales. I'm a little bit different, and mine was all about the exposure of the brand in the marketplace. So I've got 62 service trucks running across the state of Florida in all different markets, knowing that the larger my business got, the more of a target that it could become, meaning that some team member could accidentally get involved in a situation that might be bad exposure for the brand and could be very harmful. So let me just say that growing a business is fun and rewarding, and different people are going to be concerned about different things. But I think there's the balance. Let's go to the direct question: driving growth while managing EBITDA. That is the name of this game. I mean, that is it. We're all looking to grow top line, but we want to do it profitably. And I'm going to just throw it out there that growing unprofitably is the most painful thing in the world to do, because you're going to grow yourself into more negative equity in the business. So you're growing yourself into a problem. My best advice is to focus on profitability first.
Yes.
Get profitability dialed in first. And there is a compromise, Kenny, of growing depending on what the business strategy is. This is making an assumption that someone doesn't have a line of credit, they don't have investors, they don't have anything, because different strategies call for different tactics too.
Sure.
Example, I'm going to grow my business off the profit of the company versus someone else, and I know this, expansion markets in equity groups, in your traditional equity groups, and even private companies, like a
Right.
privately held company that's going to take an investment strategy. One that comes to my mind is someone who expanded into a market, Kenny, that was about 2 hours away from them. It was a major metropolitan city to a mid-size market. And for the first 3 years, they didn't even focus on profit at all.
Mm.
You can't do that if you don't have a strong balance sheet.
Yes, exactly.
Then the strategy changed to, all right, focus on profit now. All right,
Right.
we're stabilized. We came into a market. They went from 0 to 20 million in about 3 years, and now it's like the investors are saying, all right, we know that we've got 3 years worth of money to get us to the $20 million, because, Kenny, the concept of I'm a $2 million company at 20% net versus I'm a $20 million company at 5% net.
Mhm.
There's more dollars there.
Right. And there's danger there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't mistake, because here's the reality. That's a model that works. All Wall Street's full of startup unicorn billion-dollar businesses that don't make money yet, right? Like, there's all kinds of ways to do this. You will end up very likely in no man's land if you're trying to do that from 2 to 5 million. If you're trying to self-fund and go, because here's the challenge, is that top line intoxication that is like, well, all my problems at 2 million will be solved when I'm at 5, and all you did was exacerbate them, and you didn't learn how to get more profitable. And so, to your point, get profitable first. And this is true across the board. Whether you're 10 million, we see $50 million companies that are struggling to get 2-3 points. And we see $5 million companies putting up low 20% in the profitability range. So this is absolutely about the operator. And Haley, to your point of, you know, keeping us up at night, I would go to, for me, it's about optimization of process. That when I operated through the '08 recession, and so I was gifted by that opportunity to sharpen the saw and navigate fear. And what I realized was how loose some of our process was, how much we were order takers when I thought we were salespeople. How many opportunities of closing calls just got left on the table. And so I think that, yes, there might be a time where consumer confidence is shaking a little bit, but make no mistake, there are companies in your market right now that are absolutely killing it, absolutely crushing it. And I know your business is one of them. And so you want to stay there. But I think it's important that remembering that EBITDA is a byproduct. Sales closing calls is a byproduct. The results that we end up with on our P&L is a byproduct of activity, of commitment, of courage, of focus, of confidence, of implementation, and nonstop training. That is what I think really ties to maintaining that at this time in the market.
Kenny, let's go hard at the topic too, because when times are great, anybody can sell and be a great company
Right.
just by showing up. And Kelly, in the most genuine way, what I'd like to address is the question about finding that customers are leaning more toward repair versus replace, and then lead cost is up. So let's just stop there for a minute. When I really look at the overall process of our business, I know that a portion of our business I've budgeted for and accounted for a portion of that to be replacement revenue versus repair revenue. I want to fly in the face of everything that this industry has, quote, taught us, and some of it has not been good. And I would like an opportunity to go on the record right now and clarify something. I know that you guys do plumbing, electrical, and HVAC. I'm aware of that, but I'm going to use the old HVAC model, which was if we sell higher end equipment, we can get better margins, and therefore that translate into more uh, gross margin dollars, therefore potentially translating into higher profit dollars.
Mm.
That's not always true. And let me say this, there is a way to get very strong margins on low end equipment. And this is not just an HVAC conversation, my plumbers, electricians, and other trades. I want you to think about it in this term, meaning a very high efficient piece of equipment I can get better margins on. And this is where I think it goes back to the sales process. And some companies try to cookie cutter the sales process so much that they build HVAC packages. This is a 14 SEER package. We call it, back in the old day, Kenny, they would have called it the bronze, right?
Mhm.
You had the
Right.
bronze and the silver and the gold and the
Yeah.
platinums and or whatever label you want to slap
Right.
on it,
Right.
right? Call it whatever you want. But the challenge was this. When you sold the lower end equipment, people almost felt like you couldn't get it with add-ons. Well, let's fast forward today and let's talk about automobile manufacturers, because this is where I really began to change the way I felt about the way our industry sold. And please, I'm not up for an argument. I'm just going to speak my piece.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Take
and
what
as a
makes
part,
sense to you and drop the rest. Absolutely.
and we said this in season 1. Hang us a bird if you don't like it. That's fine, but you can't disagree with what I'm about to share with you. If I pull onto the lot at Ford and I say, I would like to buy a pickup truck. Well, a really bad salesman just walks me out to all the trucks, the Ford Rangers, the F-150s, the F-250s, 350s, 450s, and so on. Selling the way that we were taught in the old days, bronze, silver, would have been, do you want the Ford Ranger? Do you want the F-150? Do you want the F-250 or the
Right.
F-350? That's the equivalent of what they did.
Yes.
True consultative selling is not about that at all. We should understand, okay, customer wants this. This is the solution. So I'll give you an example. Allowing a customer to pick the Ford Ranger, but not it have roll up windows, no power locks, no power. And in the old days, the Ford Ranger didn't come tricked out. But now all of a sudden, I think you can even get like a Ford Ranger that's like a trimmer or
Yeah.
like a Raptor,
Yeah.
probably.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
They're
so what
they're
that means is this is the vehicle I want. Here's
That's
all the
it.
trim packages that I want to go with it. And so now when we look at a 16 SEER system with all the bells and whistles, and Haley, what happens here now is I can drive, because remember, those add-ons are going to drive more gross margin dollars because they're good margin items, not high-end equipment cost. And I would challenge you to think that we could sell lower end equipment with bells and whistles and be just as good as if we would have sold a 22 SEER, communicating, like all the bells and whistles on that one. So strategy matters there. I'll
It
just say
does.
that.
Yep.
How you teach your salespeople to ask the right questions and then listen to what the customer wants, and don't disqualify them of, oh, they only want cheap equipment. They probably don't want all these add-on things. They don't
Yeah.
want the recirc pump on the water heater. They don't want the surge protector. Don't judge them by that. So the process really should allow for you to explore.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tie this up, Chris, with I've got to go into my vision, belief, mindset part, my brain and what I study and what I live and resonate with. I I I love you for the question, Haley. I love you for what you do, and I just want to challenge that you said in a time that consumers are still financially struggling and leaning toward repair versus replacement. Let's challenge a global belief. Let's challenge a collective agreement. Let's challenge a mass hypnosis that people aren't buying. People are holding their purse strings. So when now let's be clear. I'm a realist. I'm not saying that there's not some economic uncertainty. There's been an administration change and everything didn't money didn't just fall from the sky on inauguration day, like whatever the case is, right? I'm not minimizing that, but the danger of the virus of the mind that infiltrates our businesses is one statement at a time in a training session when I'm in front of my team and I say, it's harder out there for people to buy. And all of a sudden, my average ticket, Chris, just drops because I just confirmed and everything that you say is an affirmation. So when I say, I'm afraid of heights, it's an affirmation. When I say I'm not a morning person, that's an affirmation. When I say it's harder to sell now than it used to be, that's an affirmation. So again, lovingly and so graciously that you're a big fan of the show, just for everybody out there, let's make sure that we are mindful of what we're telling ourselves, because even if it's 1 in 10, the fact is there are people that are still buying the F550 that if they made a trimmer they would, or what, like, there are people buying private jets today. There are people closing on multi-million-dollar homes today. So there are a lot of things happening that we just allow creeping in, and then we're missing those opportunities sometimes unconsciously, Chris. So
Yeah.
just want to make sure we also challenge our beliefs as an industry, and let's make money at everything that we do. And so great
remember
question
that too
there,
as
Haley.
well, that process matters, Haley. What you might be coming across is that there may be some exposure upon your team. And I say that in the most kindest way, that if we're really, really good at sales and we're following a proven process, this is not going to impact us as much. But teams that don't have a proven process, of team members that are not following it, typically those are the first people to get exposed. So, and I don't
Absolutely.
know
So
specific your situation, but that's good. That's good sound advice for anybody listening.
thank you, Haley. Picture one of those t-shirt guns with a pile. We got a t-shirt headed your way. So thank you so much for listening. Chris, let's go to Mark. Mark says, my biggest problem, scheduling, because you never know what you're going to run into. Or in my experience, while you're on a job and ask about a small thing instead of having to come back, I want to get it done because who wants to come back for a small task, especially with the price of gas, other jobs that are already on the schedule. So Mark, sounds like you might be operating your own truck on your own, kind of getting rolling. I get it. I started by myself in a truck. 2 years, I took every call, every on call. So, if that's your situation, and those of you listening, if it's not your situation and you run 100 trucks, guess what? You've got somebody in a truck that is doing some add-on sales that is wrecking your board. And so, Chris, I've believed for years that one of the reasons that dispatch and the call center and dispatch and the service division is somewhat always in a friction point, because my dispatcher's job is to make sure the schedule runs absolutely as smooth as possible. The call center's job is to bury it with calls, to put too many calls on the board. And then the service technicians and salespeople's job is to outsell the slots we have available for the day. And so everything is creating a scheduling opportunity, and these are profitable problems, right? So, law number 3 of my success laws is problems hold solutions. And so when we think about this, and I want to have complete compassion and empathy and love for Mark, because it's frustrating, especially if you're by yourself in the truck. You don't want to lose or upset a customer that's waiting on you. But Chris, what are your first thoughts to Mark's question here around scheduling?
A little bit of a self plug on blue collar, but this is what we excel at. This is what we do. Help owners get freedom by getting out of the service truck. And whether, to your point, Kenny, this is a single truck or you're 100 trucks, what we're about to do now, I'm going to give you a couple of things it's going to come from. The first, and it's hard. Each of our academies are 3 days, so it's going to be hard to teach this right now. But for our listeners, I because of the investment they've made in their time and listening to us, we want to provide them some tactical things. So first is we teach in the what we call the Office Champions Academy. That's our class that we teach call takers the specifics of not just what to say, but the system behind that. As a part of that, you have to have what's called a call priority matrix. A call priority matrix is or a blend of the age of a home or age of equipment versus the job type. A lot of businesses end up with so many job types that they dilute this part of the process by trying to nail down the job type with so much. And nobody's pulling reports on these job types, by the way. I know this. They're not. So why don't we allow this to now help become a system? So once I sat down, and usually we say 7 to 12, maybe 15 by trade, and depending on what disciplines are in. So if I'm a plumber that does drains and water treatment and I could have more. But what we found is less is more here. Then I mark every inbound call with this job priority matrix and I give it a number 1 through 5. 1 is the lowest priority, 5 is the highest priority. Once again, it's a system. It can't be up to interpretation. So that's the first thing. The second thing, Kenny, is then I run what we talk in our Dispatch Champions Academy, which is setting the schedule. And the setting of the schedule goes to a concept that we refer to as 100, 75, and 50. Well, where did this come from? This came from my business. We had a hell of a time that my call center would be stressed out to the max because we're always overbooked and we can never get to everybody and we're always rescheduling. So in walks this 100, 75, 50 concept at a high level. I'll share it with you. Today is Monday. Let's say today is Monday. That means tomorrow's schedule will not be filled at more than 75% capacity to give me 25% for the, hey, customer needs me to stay and do the extra work, or hey, customer needs the job to take a little longer, or a higher priority job comes in that day. I can still take it without overwhelming the team. Every day past that is at 50% capacity, and that's strictly based upon your number of hours that you plan on working in a day and the number of service technicians or field staff that you're leveraging to run those calls. So example, if I had 5 technicians who run 4 calls a day, 100% would be at that capacity, say 20 calls a day.
Right.
And we can't get into theory here, Kenny. It's not enough time. So hypothetically speaking, make this work for you based on your business. So that means today I'm trying to get to the 20, and that actually might only be 15 calls because another call, and I'm gonna end walk another part of the concept that's going to help with that. So tomorrow I'm only trying to get to 15. And once I'm at 15, that's all we're taking for that day. But it's super important that you don't just book a bunch of low priority calls.
Right.
You want to make sure you got a good mix of higher priorities. And that way, if this system's in place in any of our blue collar businesses, I could sit down at the dispatch board and I can tell you if we got a good chance of hitting budget today without even looking into the calls, just simply by the numbers that are on the board. So owners hear this out. Now, the second part of this is key. So that's the setup. The second part is communication. So we believe in good communication from the field to the office. So a technician, once arriving on site to their first call, and they have sold that call, they need to be able to provide dispatch with what we refer to as a status update. Hey, I'm going to be here for another 2 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, whatever that means, because technicians and salespeople should not know how many calls they have for the day. They get one, go take care of that one, and then my job as the internal is to support all that. Kenny, you feel me on that one?
Oh, man.
Like technicians are trying to run their day based on the number of calls they've got.
That's right.
Take that away and manage the board. So now watch this. If Chris radios in and said, hey, I'm going to be here all day, I don't need to worry about what other calls are on the board. That's the office's job to figure out and to start moving around. But because I'm only at 75% capacity, I can start moving things around. And then I'm just going to stretch that call out on the board all day long and know that Chris is out. So this goes back to everybody has a great plan in dispatch until the day starts.
And that's exactly it. And again, tying to It's about being profitable, and less is more when it comes to profitable. And the other thing I'll piggyback with all this wisdom Chris just shared is communicate. So Mark, if you're by yourself, if your scenario is you are on your own, one truck scenario, and you're like, well, Miss Jones is waiting, but uh, Mr. Chapman needs this taken care of. And just communicate with Miss Jones the best that you can. And don't be to Mr. Chapman like when you walk up to, I'll walk into a juice bar or a smoothie bar place or something, and I'm standing at the counter ordering, and the phone rings, and they're like, hang on a sec. And they answer the phone, right? So let's be careful that we're not giving the customer we're in front of every bit of us, because there's nothing better that you can do, and just communicate the best you can. All we're doing every day, ladies and gentlemen, is doing the best we can in the human experience in the service business world. And your best is all you've got. And that's where we want to make it lie here. And so Chris, let's do one more quick one. And I don't mean quick because this question isn't really important. So again, Mark, we got a t-shirt coming your way. Thanks for being a fan of the show. Always reach out with any follow-up feedback for us, and if you want any additional clarity offline there. So last question of this episode, Chris, let's take it from Taylor. Taylor says, we're trying to implement 3% credit card fee and our customers are not liking it. Merchant fees are very high, and our software company is unwilling to integrate different merchant providers. What scripts or verbiage are technicians using to explain this fee and to get customers to buy in? Great question, Taylor. Thank you so much. We'll get you a shirt. And Chris, you go, I go, and we'll put a bow on this.
Thank you for the question, Taylor. This is going to go back, and this is going to sound almost like I'm overthinking it. But Taylor, credit card fees are a cost of doing business. It's just the world we live in. No matter whether it's a credit card fee or even a dealer fee on running financing, when we truly understand what it costs to run our business, we should build all of the cost of delivering our services into the prices that we charge. A lot of companies find this dilemma of they haven't built the cost of credit cards into their business because they don't know how.
Yeah.
The simple answer.
And who's going to use a credit? Who's going to use a credit card? Who's going to pay? Who's not? Like, yes.
Okay, so let's make one assumption today, Taylor, and I'm telling you with the utmost confidence that if you'll do this, life will get easy.
Way better. Way better.
Increase all your prices across the board by 3% and make the assumption that everybody's going to use a credit card. And the cool part is when people don't use a credit card, you just drop 3% back down to the bottom line. And I promise you, your customers will not know that you've added this into. So now instead of creating a moment of friction, you've created a moment of freedom because you've set yourself up for success. And Taylor, I also recommend that you just go back to look and examine your entire cost of doing business.
Yes.
The number one reason why business fails, they're not priced correctly. So quick answer, Taylor, increase your prices 3%, do a rollout on it.
And I remember one of my mentors, major mentor, John Ward, told me to and his was like 25% when I first needed to start increasing my rates. And the thing that we forget, Taylor, like one of our immediate reactions is, but Chris, I'm already getting price pushback. I'm getting price concerns as it is. Here's the reality. You will get less and you'll eliminate. Here's the thing. There is no script on the planet. You ask for a script. We love you. We appreciate you watching or listening to the show, but there's no script that is going to make that easy on a technician or a salesperson, because conditioned consumers, myself, the lovely Christie's hairdresser, won't take a credit card. And so we have to mess with Venmo, and this. We don't have kids. I don't Venmo. Like, people loan their kids money through Venmo or what. Like, I got to go find a platform. And so I told Christy, I'm like, get a new hairdresser. And she's like, you don't understand. This is my hairdresser. I'm not getting a new hairdresser. Here's the thing. If I came home and that's a service company and I said, well, they're charging 3%, guess we'll get a new service company. And there's 100,000 of them ready to take my business. So with love and respect, everything in the business, the customer pays for it. It's not that you're duping them. It's not that you're hiding it from them. I don't know how much the blueberries cost in the smoothie that I had this morning, but if they charged me 15 cents extra because I wanted blueberries in there, I got an issue with that. So run our businesses the same way.
Yeah. That's sound advice for everyone, that because that's the other thing as well, the whole truth in lending thing charges like, oh, well, if you're going to use our financing, the price of the job goes up 10%. Now you can post it that way and do that, but the challenge is you just I've got to overcome that objection. Taylor, I think that's probably the challenge you're having is you've created a challenge by doing it this way. And I think you'll find a lot more peace and ease of delivery your services. Just simply build it into the cost of doing business.
And to your point, Chris, everybody on the line, man, go relook at your break even, get back into your cost of doing business. I don't know, when we're recording this a couple weeks back, read a report about InBev, the parent company of Bud Light, and they've had sales drop in like 7 quarters in a row of overall sales drop. And Bud Light made more money than they had when they were selling more beer. Why? You Bud Light drinkers know, because the cost of beer's gone up, and they get so that's the thing is keep an eye on your numbers, and ladies and gentlemen, keep on rocking and rolling. Taylor, we got a shirt coming your way. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thanks for the questions. We're going to keep rolling with some additional topics, Chris, and then we're going to circle back and drop in another couple mailbag episodes. So if you didn't hear your name today, we're coming for you. We're not gonna miss you. And we are just so grateful for everybody. Chris, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for being here, brother. Hey,
As always,
such a pleasure to do this with you.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody listening and consuming. Stay tuned for what we got in the hopper for you for the rest of the season. We're super excited.
Coming soon. Thanks, everybody. See you very soon. Take care now.